G'day guys, and welcome to a preview for Randwick on the 14th of April. Sydney Cup Day, Queen Elizabeth Stakes, Australian Oaks, Arrowfield Sprint, Queen of the Turf for the Arrowfield Sprint's the only non-Group 1. Sapphire Stakes also Group 2 and the Percy Sykes. Big day, second day of the championships. Very windy day predicted, and a 3-metre rail makes life very interesting here. Having a look at sort of the map here, it's a north to north westerly wind that's predicted, so coming from sort of this direction, no real spot where you're getting too much of a headwind. It's more of a crosswind most of the day, which usually buffeting horses coming down this side of the track, so it usually produces a bit of a bias where horses with a cover off the rail will be advantaged. Obviously, Randwick traditionally is a bit of a down the middle track. It was a bit on pace and fence-ish last week, or just off the fence, sorry, but on pace-ish. If it's true that they're serving up sort of a good 3 to 4 here, it could still be a little bit on speed, on pace-ish. It's just a matter of getting a bit of cover there, and I'd say getting off being off the fence. You would expect they put a lot of water on this track with Winks running. Usually they prepare the track to suit her to a certain degree with a bit of give in it, and that will also usually mean the fence, when they artificially water the track a bit too much, becomes a bit softer. So again, that should lead to horses getting off the inside. It's just more a matter of whether you can make ground as well, and you need cover to be in the finish. Obviously both very important factors. So setting up the day, kind of looking ideally for horses just off speed with a bit of cover, and if the pattern's different to that, we'll have to adjust our plan as we go. First race of the day, a mile for the 2-year-olds listed. It's obviously Fernial handicap, quite an open race to start the day. Aristocratic Miss comes up favourite. Obviously got a terrible racing pattern of getting well back usually, has a bit of strength about it and can sustain a run, but should find an awkward spot here from gate 2, and I'm not too excited to be with it. If we're talking sort of a Aristocratic Miss, looking at the map, she's going to get well back on the inside, you'd imagine. There's not a lot of speed in the race. Bold Ariel obviously jumps 500 metres in trip and has good speed, so you'd expect it to cross. I don't think Graceful Grammar really want to be that positive, and it's hard to find. Maybe this Ryan Gow can roll forward with Bold Ariel early, maybe dropping behind it. Legislation possibly coming across for 2. There's a few runners here that could try and hold a little bit closer position over the further distance, but there doesn't look to be a whole lot of tempo, which is against the favourite. The inside gate's against the favourite, and that just opens the race up even further. I'll sort of head down from the top and try and narrow it down a little bit, but it's not easy. Musselbrook jumped from 12 to 1500 last time and did a good job there, and an ugly little race. I think the step up to the mile is certainly no hurt for this horse, but the inside draw is a bit of a worry. If it can hold a little bit closer position, which I think this horse can a little bit more probably than Aristocratic Miss. It can run a race, but it's also going to be in that on-fence position, so it's a bit of a victim of a bit of a tester against what this pattern's going to do with this wind. Legislation certainly looks to be struggling, needs to lift big time. Momentum Factor jumps from 11 to 1600 at its 4th run in, is it 5th run in its first preparation, so hard to know what it's going to do. A good ride last start and things fell on its lap. The race wasn't overly strong, and you'd have to sort of be against it, I think, here, even though, and it'll probably be sort of midfieldish and wide. Manalong Tappet broke through last start in an average race, certainly looks to have a bit of strength about it, and that looks its best attribute. Secudo backs up 9 days later off a first up run, jumps 300 metres in distance, not a lot of luck there, and ran well. You can see it improving here, soft gate, and can't knock it at the price. Aristocratic Miss 7th run, first preparation. Not a great ride last start, but still needs luck from the gate, and 1600 metres untested, but looks okay. Just can't get it short as it is. Vega 1 certainly looks very one-paced and out to the mile, looks good. Poor draw, but that may be okay with a bit of luck and cover. That draw actually might work out okay for it with the winds predicted. For 2 was a really strange run last time. It's definitely never in the right spot and can't improve. It's a dangerous runner. Ryan Gow sat outside the leader last start in the race, beaten by Manlong Tappet, and also will find a good position here depending on again that pattern. But it and Baldariel are kind of great testers for that. Baldariel looks to get a soft run on speed and definitely looks a strong enough type. It's a query of the mile, especially when it's entered in the 1200 as well. But we'll have a look at it. And Graceful Glamour's probably the best setup of the lot. Has a traditional run, 5th run into the first prep is an issue, but jumping 200 metres 23 days, it seems the sort of rock solid sort of type as well that you think would run well here. Randwick should suit. Draws to settle just in behind the speed and hopefully get to the right part of the track. The bottom one, Peaceful Solution, looks tested. It's a really tough race, this. I think Musselbrook, I think anything can win. I really can't narrow it down too much. The pattern's a bit of a nightmare. I definitely couldn't possibly entertain betting in this race. Not even a stab in the dark. I just want to watch this one and have a couple of looks at it to try and work out if we can get an advantage going forward to the rest of the day. Race 2, South Pacific Classic. Asaurian's already been heavily backed this morning. Pardon me. So we'll look at the tempo of the race first, which is a bit of an issue for Isaurian potentially, or could work into its favour. Bold Ariel, what's it still doing in the field? Why has that not picked that up? Okay, oh, he's in the wrong race. Very lack of tempo here, very strong lack of tempo on paper here. Possibly Renewal, Isaurian Dark Dream, roll across from the outside as long as nothing else drawn inside has any other ideas. Isaurian could then end up outside leader, could end up 1-1, could end up in front. 1 out, 1 back would obviously be an ideal position. I think it needs to find that spot to justify the price that it is currently. Like $2.50 seems extremely aggressive. It was obviously not given the clearest of paths last start and chased well. Behind I'm Excited, that was a fast tempo, so a little bit flattered there by horses stopping a little bit late, but effort was good considering how far it got shuffled back. I thought Renewal's trial was very good, 28 days off, and back that 100 metres. He's allowed to settle late. This is him back here in the black pom-pom. He paraded there like he had plenty more to give, and just when he's given his head here a little bit late, I just like how he accelerates sharply there for a few strides before being shut down again. I don't really want him to lead here. The draw is what probably puts me back off him a little bit, but he should find a really nice spot, I would say, with his natural speed and run a race here. He's well set up to run well. 12 up the tops, dropping back sharply 600 metres in 14 days, racing very well, ran well there, just given no winning chance, and maybe didn't run the 2000 out strong, so back to 14 is probably not an easy task, but she's definitely going extremely well, and if it's down the outside there, she can be chiming in. Dark Dream down the bottom, should race on pace. I think this is a really tough horse. I think it's a horse that can get to the Queensland Carnival and win a race of decent note. It's just a matter of whether 1400 metres again, second up here, it's a very one-pace type, and whether it's going to get out sprinted by some classy sprinting types here and not sort of coming to its own until it's up to the mile and further. I'd say that's I think $7 is about, as low as you want to be taking it. I think Renewal and Isaurian are the two that are quite standoutish on form. I think Renewal is definitely the better value, around $4.50. 12 the likely closer, but still I think most of the sprint should be taken out of her legs. And surprised if anything else wins. Diamond Tathagata just not going well enough. Sparky Lad second up off a pretty weak run first up, really needs to improve a lot. Waimea Bay's a really solid on pace battler, but does she have the class to beat these? Like Kingdom Come definitely needs to improve. Gate 1 blinkers can help, but that Gate 1 also could be problematic, and California Turbo definitely needs a strong lift in form to measure up to this grade, but it's not impossible. So I think the better of the two runs from Renewal and Isorian probably wins the race. Dark Dream battles away, Torval comes home late. Waimea Bay's there somewhere battling away, and like Kingdom Come's not far away either. Race 3, Percy Sykes. Strange race when you try and work this race out. Setsuna and Sister Sledge look to dominate the speed. Again, we'll know by here now a little bit more if that's okay or whether you want to be having cover. Pure Elation is the runner that's quite short in the market off a maid-winning, pretty average race. Obviously has plenty of ability but plenty of quirks, and certainly I think you have to be against it here. Fiesta's had a long preparation, had a couple of grand finals I think, but I like that they've held her up and missed a couple of other races to hold her for this 1200 metre event. Draws ideally, has trialled up well since, so she seems to be going okay and definitely an each way hope. Kalasa is coming up from Melbourne, won down the straight last time, solid enough effort there. Not sure where she gets to, whether she pressures forward or tries to take a sit. That will be interesting. I thought Outback Barbie's trial was exceptional between runs, obviously 35 days between runs, but that trial was really good. And inside gate with the Hong Kong rider, or the Brazilian rider, Joe Moreira comes out to ride it. That's a bit of a worry from mine from that inside draw. Really a bit of a specialist's day today, possibly, with this heavy winds. Gongs ran well last start, runs well again, but I think just lacks a little bit of quality to be dominant at this level. I thought Cristobal is a very interesting horse. It's been very good at both runs, trialled extremely well since, maps well, and does tick a lot of boxes. Sweet Ava gets the blinkers and comes back in distance. I could see it improving without surprising at all. It's a bit of a knockout hope at 20s. And Sister Sledge obviously ran very well. Its first start in a race, set outside Esther Jarb and battled on strongly. That was 35 days ago. Not sure why that break, but does look well enough placed here. It doesn't look without, outside of the realms of possibility. Kara's Hope, blinkers on. What are they going to do here? If they find a sit with it, I think naturally this horse is certainly in the race. I think 50 to 1 is an enormous price, and $14 a place is exceptional. I think it's clearly the best bet in the race, $14 a place, this horse. Cristobal, and I don't want Outback Barbie to beat me if it goes around $9 or $10 off that really impressive trial. So a really tough race. I think you could go a few different ways. You can justify most of these horses as winning chances. The pattern will come into play a little bit, but I think it's going to be a pretty genuinely run race, and most should get their chance. It's not an easy one. Race 4 Provincial Championships final. Just Dreaming's got extremely good form for this race. It's obviously been beaten just a length in the Coolmore Classic Group 1 level. Obviously carried 51 kilos there. The start before that, it won the Wyong heat quite dominantly, beaten only 1.3 in a Group 3 mares race from that. Nothing in this race can certainly boast any sort of form to that level. The horse only has to carry 57 kilos here. Gate 10 looks ideal with Bowman aboard. He'll have options and is the horse to beat, no doubt about it. $3.60, probably about right. Old Man Sam, solid enough last start inside drawer and probably looks tested class-wise. Bastia, 35 days and looks 2-1 pace for me. Bonami should have won last start, just given an horrific time. Really good effort there. Definitely looks city grade at the worst, and looks to peak here off a decent setup. 1400 metres to me was a little bit of a query, but I think it proved last start that it certainly should run that distance out with any luck in running. Place here 2-1 paced for mine. Cool Vinny tested, Torflex Boy tested at the distance. Pomelo, very interesting horse. The rider pulls me up. 1400 metres is going to pull me up. And 28 days between runs trying to run that 14 with that rider aboard. Got to be moderately against it. Serene Miss was just an enormous win at Gosford for mine. This horse certainly on the up, certainly knows how to find the line and can dig deep, and $8.50 huge odds for me. Looks the value runner of the race, even though it's drawn awkwardly. Princess Posh put in a huge performance first up over this trip, has to back that up, which is not going to be easy. Manderline's a query runner of the race. It's in its first preparation, and it's got great speed, and it's got a huge heart. It just keeps finding under pressure and will give you a sight. Again, that pattern may be detrimental to this horse. News Fan is in its first preparation, I think. No, second preparation. Won its maiden first up this time in, and it's sort of raced through the grades. 28 days up in trip. It's got a hope, but it definitely needs a lot of things to go its way. Witches is not the worst horse in the race here for me, but from that inside draw will need a lot of luck. Joins a new stable, which is a query as well. And Hallelujah Boy and It's So Obvious probably just look to be a little bit reaching too far at this stage. I think I'll be surprised if the winner didn't come from Just Dreaming, Bonhomie or Serene Miss. Pretty wide open for the placings, but I think they've got the right attributes to certainly be in the finish here, and they have a nice turn of foot. They should run the distance out, and they've just got a little bit of quality on the rest of them. Interesting to see how Manderline goes, and News Fan for Mello's definitely got the class, just a matter of whether it can get the right ride and the distance. Good little race. Not sure about betting in it, but it's an interesting race. Arrowfield Sprint. Now this map's really tricky. Hootson obviously looks to get right on speed there. Booker showed some good speed in the trial. Parast is a bit of a nightmare of a horse. It just gets going keen. Not sure if it'll be heading forward or they'll be looking for cover. Then you've got other horses, She Will Reign, Showtime, that want to kick up inside, which makes it difficult for these horses outside as well to find a position. Viridine, who knows, do they ride it quiet? I'm not really sure. It's got the form on the board, it's got the positive rider change, it's been given no winning chance at any run this preparation. Synthetic hoof filler on is a bit of a possible query to what's going on there. It's hard to know, but it has to be the horse to beat. Its form lines are just so far superior to these, and it gets in so well at the weights. Showtime inside draw, battles away, 1200 I think is a bit short for it. Pariah was just given absolutely none in Melbourne first up, and the jury is out on this horse. Wouldn't surprise me if it came out and ran extremely well, but today's probably D-Day for it. Just a complete forgive last time. She Will Reign's struggling a little bit for mine. I'm happy to risk it. Catchy from that wide draw, ran well last week, complete forgive. If it finds a 3-wide trail, it can certainly run into the placings. Booker blew up big time after that trial the other day, as in really had a good blow and really seemed in need of that hit out. Whether that's border on enough to get her to this sort of level race and run out a strong 1200 against these horses, I'm not sure. A little bit of a query there for mine. Hootson battled on extremely well last week and gets a good time of it up front. If it is sympathetic to leaders, then she can definitely win. I'm excited racing really well. Obviously this is the hardest test it's had, but it is a bit of a bomb-proof type where it sort of doesn't have a lot of early speed, but definitely is a line chaser. So you'd expect it to be running well here again. I think Viridine's got a clear class edge on these horses, and is clearly the horse to beat. I think $3.20 is fair enough. Not really looking to unload on it. Just it's a bit of a funny horse, but I think he's got all the ability in the world, and if he has any luck in running with that rider change, he'll run well. I think Bowman's patience will suit this horse, and he'll travel a bit better for him. Race 6, Australasian Oaks. Okay, the pattern's enormous here. This horse Hyam just looks to have come back a machine. Its first up run was great. I'll show you what I like about it. It's at a raced outside the lead here, which is a good attribute for any horse to be able to get up on speed, especially a horse going up in distance. So it has to work. He's out here. She's out here in the blue cap. Eventually gets outside lead. It works to get there. Solid tempo. Gets dropped at the top of the turn a little bit by horses that are out sprinting her. I know Unforgiven comes past late here, and this horse is in the race today. But what I love is the way she really puts in under pressure here and comes back to beat Renewal and Shamook late, and just looks to be thriving on that extra distance through the line. Obviously came out, dictated, again didn't go slow, but it went fast enough. My issue possibly here is you can see that she just starts to get a little bit keen, and you don't want to see that today up to the 2400 metres. If that edge has been knocked off her, because she's only second up here, you can just see there she's just tugging that bit. It's very hard to win an Oaks when you want to over race, but these horses behind are obviously the main dangers, I believe. Unforgiven was not really given much of a chance to win the race, wasn't put into the race, and faced too big a task. It comes past Aloysia, who's obviously hard in the betting here as well. Anything else in this race that's not in the betting? Nothing else to really point out. So I think these are your two main winning chances. I think Unforgiven was given a little winning chance last time, and Hyam, if it's allowed to dictate and settles, I think it'll just be too good for them. I think it'll just lead all the way, or right on speed and be too strong. Savvy Coup comes over from New Zealand, solid enough winner over there of the New Zealand Oaks. Countess Vanessa chased it home there. I think the gap's too big between them and $7.20. Countess Vanessa could be slight value. I really do think the winner comes out of High Am and Unforgotten. Unforgotten just needs to have a little bit of luck from that middling draw. Bowman again takes over. No knock on the ride at last start, that's for sure, but just got caught a little bit out of its ground there, and this will be the race they want to win anyway. So I am, for me, obviously worried about that strong wins, but I think this horse just looks at natural bulldog on pace staying type that should run very well here, and there's not a lot of competition for on speed positions. Unforgotten, the closer. Race 7, Queen Elizabeth Stakes. Obviously Winks comes up extremely short here, going for how many in a row, 25 or whatever it is, crazy. She's the one to beat. Appy Clapper, to me, draws poorly, and there's not really a position for him up on speed here, so that makes his task very tough. 2,000 metres, obviously as far as he wants to go. He's racing well, but I'm probably risking him for the place here. Galo Chop just eats the 2,000, back from the 2,400s, no problem. 2 weeks between runs, thought he went well enough there. Just simply found out at the 24, and he's definitely a place, like a leading place chance. Humidor definitely doesn't seem to go the same way as well this way as he does down in Melbourne, but well set up, and that inside draw, as long as that pattern's not showing, it's very, very ordinary to be on that inside. He should battle away. Ambitious, I thought, went really well and can be strong late here. 2,400s definitely seemed to suit last start. Took an age to wind up, but wasn't in the clearest of running there, and definitely can improve. Success Days is impossible to line up. 175 days between runs coming from overseas, but probably not one to find here. Classic Uniform definitely doesn't look to be going well enough, and should just give Jailer Chop something to chase. Coming through was great in the Doncaster last week, but now raises up to 2,000 metres weight for age as opposed to a handicap over the mile. Draws ideally to hold a position there, which is, I think, important to his chances. I think he has got a place chance, no doubt about that. Odeon's an underrated type that was set an impossible task last start, and I thought he could run a place, possibly. I didn't have him out of the trifecta calculations. Winks obviously there, the one to beat by Country Mile and Consensus, not really for me. So I thought, from a value perspective, if you're going to throw, you just throw Winks, Galo Chop, Ambitious coming through Odeon. If they ran the placings, one of those 4 ran the placings behind, the 2 placings behind Winks, you'd get a bit of value. But I'm not playing the race heavily, that's for sure. Sydney Cup, wow, very difficult. Head down the page. Almandon, very well set up, obviously a Melbourne Cup winner. 57 kilos seems fine. Good strong winner of the Queen Elizabeth's last start, but now jumps 800 metres quickly. Let's just get up the race. Now jumps quickly. Obviously a bit of a rock solid type that can race from anywhere. 5 to 2, $3.50 seems quite short, but obviously has a strong winning chance. Who Shot the Barman's a 9-year-old racing as well as if he has. Our man is an 8-year-old, so it's not impossible for this horse to win, but he just never knows how to run a bad race. He'll chip away. I can't find him to back him, but I'm not surprised if he wins. I don't think it'd be the biggest upset in the world. Librand's 28 days between runs and jumps from 2,000 to 3,200. Have to be against it just on the setup alone. Ventura Storm doesn't know how to run a bad race. It's not a winner at this distance, but looks in good form. Should race somewhere where it doesn't need luck and should battle away. Prestwick comes over from Japan. Impossible to line this horse up. Moreira to ride. 56 days between runs. Has good form at this distance and beyond, so should be strong. 5 to Midnight has solid enough form. Can't put a line through it. Orvray, I just can't imagine it winning. Can't have it. I think it'll just get found out a little bit class-wise. Lord Fandango's desperate for a dry track. Could probably run a cheeky race if this track's genuinely firm. Aloft is just a scary horse. 42 days between runs. Won a jog trot there first up. Now they put McAvoy aboard. Obviously the weight was an issue there with Oliver not able to get down that light, so I don't think he really had the choice but to put McAvoy on this horse. Another adaptable sort of type from the stable that looks nice and scary in this race and definitely can win. Cicada looks tested. Sir Charles Road has got that little great setup, 7-day back up off a strong win last week over Ventura Storm. Hard to see it not running well from an ideal gate. Lasketti Spirit's going to be a nightmare in traffic, as will Montaigne. I can't see either of them winning. Patrick Aaron was far from the worst there at its last start, and certainly far from the worst here, drawn awkwardly, but should just keep whacking away all day, as should Peribson. Hopefully they put it in the race this start, and it's a go-forward horse that can battle on strongly. I don't think this trip will worry it. Admiral Gillo was a horse I thought I highlighted last week that was a really strong effort, and again it draws poorly here with a bit of a funny rider change, but I think 150s is insane from a place perspective. The $20, $30 or whatever it is, looks big odds. Almedo and Duquesne can both run into the placings as well for mine. Almedo's obviously better proven at the trip. I thought they were both okay last start. It seems a bit of a wide open affair for me. I definitely wouldn't be surprised by any result. I think obviously the most obvious four are our man and Ventura Storm, Aloft and Sir Charles Road, the two that bring the form from last week and back up in here are well set up, and the two Lloyd Williams runners have plenty of class on their side. Big watch on the horse Prestwick coming over from Japan. Obviously those horses tend to have a bit of class edge on us when it comes to the staying caper. Lord Fandango, Orvray, maybe. I think that the value for the exotics is Patrick Aaron, Peribson, Admiral Jello, Almedo, Duquesne to a very smaller degree. Patrick Aaron, Peribson, Admiral Jello, definitely the ones I'll be throwing in my trifectas, trying to get some value in there around those other types that are sort of shorter in the market. Extremely hard race, but nothing like the next. It is the hardest race I think I've seen in a long time. There does look good competition. This is the Queen of the Turf. Good competition for the front from wide draws, so they should go nice and quick early. Should allow all runners their chance. I literally struggle to put a line through anything. Daisy Doom's much better suited drawn wide. It'll have to work, but it loves doing that, and it's better suited that way. Fox Place, extremely one pace these days, but an each way chance in a race of this nature. Dixie Blossoms look suited by a far bigger field and more tempo, but again that rider query for mine. But the horse should do a lot of its own work here late. Should just need to be pinching runs and getting to the outside. Prompt Response racing really well, I think, about its right price, $7 or $8. Silence Edition is very similar, but it has the 28 days between runs, which is not easier. Still such a quality type. Heavens Above, 20 to 1 again value, but it's a nightmare with its racing pattern. Can run well. Spanish Reef, I think, has had a lot in its favour the last couple and doesn't get that here and looks well and truly short enough at this grade. around $8, probably should be closer to 15, 20 to 1. Oregon's Day's racing really well, doesn't sort of attack the line, but definitely doesn't shirk its task. It's a bit of a battler each way. Hope payrolls. Dangerous runner, definitely can run the trip out strongly, draws the inside, and if that's okay with inside runs, can run a race. Abbey Marie's a horse that has always had ability, and another one that's dangerous at the mile at Randwick. Aid Memoir, very similar again, but it's 28 days between runs. Eckstein going well enough, just needs a lot of luck. It's got a poor racing pattern also. Samavare, not for me here. Perfect Rhyme has a good setup for a roughie to be throwing in exotics coming back in distance on pace type that should be super strong. Natoya's an enigmatic type. If it was a wet track, I could certainly entertain throwing it in everything as well. It's got the ability if it wants to put in, and the bottom horse, Elise's, got an interesting setup too, back from 2,000 metres. Just the most impossible race. There's so many strong types. There's good speed in the race. There's good jockeys. There's horses drawn, to need luck that could win if they got it. There's horses that may struggle from wide draws. It's interesting to see where they're going to get, but 200 metres into the race could find a perfect position. It is the hardest. It doesn't get any harder than this race. It's impossible. Last race of the day, a little bit easier, but not a lot easier. Gassoni, let's have a look at the field. Sorry, look at the tempo. Again, looks like good speed wide, some speed inside, so it should be a solid tempo here. I did hear that White Moss has to be bedded on the way due to a head laceration or something, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with it. Gassoni, 105 days off, highly talented when right and has trialled up well, but this is a tough task first up, 1,200 metres. Sprite put in a monster win first up against a slow tempo and just rounded them up there. Did have a little bit of less traffic, but still it was quite a slow tempo and really did rip through the line. Can't knock it. Raymond coming off a failure. Hard to have it really, 28 days back in distance. I'm not surprised if it wins, but history says you've got to be against these sort of horses in these races. Ravi's 35 days between runs. I thought its trials and how it looked at the trials were great. That first up run was just a perfect run to bring it on. 35 days is a bit longer than I would have liked, but this horse has all the quality in the world, and from gate 2 should get a nice position just behind the speed and be letting down, hopefully in the right part of the track, the horse to beat for mine. Danish Twist comes back in distance, 28 days between runs, back 300 metres. Certainly good enough late there in the Cormore that it can measure up to this grade without problem. It's just a matter of kind of where it gets to and how late it leaves it. Louboutin trialled well. I thought the inside draw and this sort of 1,200 motors might be a bit sharp for it. White Moss trials were okay, got back, looks ready for this first up and should find a position a little bit closer than it was in its trials, hopefully. Faraway Town's been racing well, ridden a bit too aggressively with the break between runs last time, has trialled well since. Will be ridden quieter, I would imagine. This is its hardest task it's faced. Quillista led them a merry dance last start all the way. More pressure here, and I'm trying to be against it here. Sugar Bella looks better suited here than last start when beaten by Quillista, but seems short enough in the market, has it some chance. Not going well enough, Noyetta. Invincibella first up is not an easy task. We've talked about there's quite a few runners here that there's a couple that are first up, and I think they face tough tasks. And Heady Heights, I think tested, Fragonard tested, just knocked a couple of first uppers. Now I'm going to half tip one here in Shazzy Lee. I thought its trial was exceptional. I think this horse is ideally suited to a big field, 1,200 metres at Randwick, and can run a huge race at 70s. It's 20 to 1 a place, seems huge odds for it. Slow burn doesn't seem to be going well enough for mine. Tough race to finish the day. I think the main players are Sprite, Ravi to a better extent than Sprite. I think White Moss is very interesting, but is first up, and it's not going to be easy. It does look to have been given plenty of work. And Shazzy Lee, Sugar Bella can win. Shazzy Lee down the bottom is the extreme value. So I think Ravi's hardest to beat. I'm scared of Sprite. I think it's come back in even better form and usually improves during its preparation. Shazzy Lee, big odds. Definite player. Tough day, be patient. I wouldn't be betting up too heavily today. I'd sort of be chipping around, especially not betting up too heavy early when we want to see these wind conditions and how it's going to affect the runners. 45 km/h gusts are already being recorded. Supposed to get stronger and peak at sort of 4 or 5 o'clock this afternoon. So I doubt we're going to see a day without strong wind. It's just a matter of how the track plays and keeping a close eye on it. Maybe adjusting the plan of attack as the day goes on, but it doesn't get easier. If you get the quaddie today, you are too good for me. Good luck, guys.